Cindy here. Dr. Cindy. For anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Dr. Cynthia Elise Smith. I'm an educator, anti-racism essayist, writer, and novelist. I'm a little subdued today, been in a little pain. Had some real crazy things happen with my phone. So I want to talk about that first before I get into this subject, which is on reproduction, rape, abortion, and white supremacy. I had this Galaxy Samsung S8 phone that would be paid with Verizon. That would be paid for by July. But this was a replacement phone, and I was having an enormous amount of problems with it, not the least of which was the fact that the battery was just done. So I decided I was going to replace it yet again. Well, how about when I had those people on the phone literally separated. It was separating the casing, the back from the front on the left-hand side. At first, it was the slit was large enough so that you could put a dime in there, or slide a dime through it, and it was trailing all the way down to where you plugged it in, the charger. By the time I finished talking with those people on the phone, that thing had gotten as wide as you could put 2 quarters through there and slide it all the way around as though you were opening the back casing. Now, anybody who knows these phones know that they do not allow you to change batteries anymore. So what was in effect happening was my battery was expanding. When I tell you these people bent over backwards this time to give me something, they ended up sending me a Galaxy S9, newer one. You know, they got the S10 out, but they sent me the S9 Galaxy and all the accoutrements, the chargers, a case, everything. I laid those people out. I laid them out. But anyway, anybody who knows me knows that I do digress. So I see I have some people on. Hi. Hey, cat. Hey, Fat. As I always say, if there is anyone that you think might benefit from what I'm talking about, or you may want to have somebody chime in the troll, or you may have someone who you think might say, oh, she just doesn't know what the hell she's talking about most times, but she's entertaining. Share. Please feel free to share. And remember, always put your thinking caps on, because, you know, I dive real deep most times. And I'm going to be diving deep today because I'm going to be talking about a book that I really recommend to everybody. And that book is called At the Dark End of the Street by Danielle. I can never, this is why I could never be one of those kinds of people who can just spout out names of writers at will, how those intellects and scholars are, and they can tell you all about this by such and such and such said. No, I've just never been about that. But this writer, her name is Danielle L. McGuire, and she writes the story of Black women and the fight for Black women to own their own lives, own their own bodies. And I thought that this is significant today, in that there is a big fight going on now with respect to people owning their own bodies. But see, I'm here to tell you that Black women have been fighting to own their own bodies, our own bodies, for a lot longer and with a lot more detrimental effects of having fought for that right to our own bodies. And a lot of the civil rights movement that you don't know about has a lot to do with that fact. In fact, you may not be aware, but Rosa Parks sat on that bus not because she was tired, but because she was fighting for the rights of Black women to own their own bodies. Did you know that? Did you know that on any given day, anybody, any man or woman, white of course, who wanted to brutalize a Black woman on a bus could do it with impunity, pretty much the way the police do now with brutality and things like that? Well, these are things that just kind of went on unchecked. And so that was a lot of what the fight was about. Her fight was about rape and the fact that Black women in the 1950s still did not own their bodies. Okay, I wrote an essay about the book and about my feeling about the book. So I guess you might call it you could call it a review of sorts or not. But I'm going to go ahead and read it before I digress anymore. Again, if you got any friends that you want to share this with, please feel free to share. I'll be uploading it later, but do feel free to share and, of course, like and all that other good stuff. All right, let me start. It's called At the Dark End of the Street, and that's the name of Danielle L. McGuire's book. So by the time I finally learned anything about Rosa Parks, I was a young adult in my early 20s during the 70s. What I learned was that she was the old lady who was too tired to give up her seat on a segregated bus in Montgomery, Alabama, an event which sparked the civil rights movement of the 60s. Bet you didn't know that. Prior to that revelation, I believed that Dr. Martin Luther King, Ralph Abernathy, et al. Were the persons singularly responsible for starting the movement. I can't say that I had any special predilection for Ms. Parks' role in the movement and couldn't see any tangible significance in her action except to the extent that Black people wanted to stop sitting in the backs of buses and wanted to sit, eat, live, and associate with white people. But that Jim Crow wasn't having any of that. And that the white people in the South were killing Black people with such vigor and vigilance to keep Black people from enjoying the same rights as they. After I finished the book entitled At the Dark End of the Street, Black Women, Rape and Resistance, A New History of the Civil Rights Movement from Rosa Parks to the Rise of Black Power by Danielle L. McGuire, it revolutionized my thinking. My soul seared from the flames rising inside it as I listened to each and every word because I got it on Audible. Let me tell you, if you have a problem with reading the pages and it bores you, or you got ADD or something and your attention span goes, get audible.com. I have read hundreds, when I tell you hundreds of books that I would not have ordinarily read, but for this medium. Do take advantage of it. I recommend it highly. And as I listened to each and every word of this extremely important audiobook, I felt tremendous remorse that I'd been so ignorant of the truth of Rosa Parks and her contribution to the equal rights movement and the effect it had on the lives of Black women, including me. I could scarcely contain myself. When I tell you that, I could scarcely contain myself. Trust and believe, I could scarcely contain myself. This book was powerful. You just don't know what our families, what our grandmothers and our great grandmothers, it's going to make me tear up now. I know I've been doing that lately on these videos because I've been a bit emotional about other things. But when I tell you the stuff that we have gone through as Black women, you better believe, you better friggin' believe, even in our weakest moments, we the strongest thing you ever gonna see, okay? You better get that straight. Never before had I even approached the subject of rape of Black women at the hands of white men, save for knowing that it existed during slavery. I mean, we all knew that it existed during slavery. Of course, I knew it because that is my dubious distinction of being alive today. But for the slave master, Massa Spragans, constantly and consistently raping Dicey Spragans, and then my grandmother's grandmother, if I can get it right, my grandmother's grandmother's mother, if it's somewhere up in there, was born and her name was Cordelia. So I knew it existed. Within the context of American history, the way that they have defined it, the way that the white supremacists have defined it, Black men were mainly of the incubus type, ravenous, hypersexual, sexually uncontrollable savages who by their very nature wanted to rape and possess the pure white woman. But I'm here to tell you that nothing could have been further from the truth. Nothing could have been further from the truth of those times. You're hearing me? You better hear me. It was as though white men were somehow projecting their own cruelty and carnal desires of Black women to hide the truth that they themselves were guilty of what they were professing of the Black man in relation to the white woman. Let me tell you something. Rosa Parks was at the forefront of the struggle of Black women in the South who were consistently raped, beaten, and then vilified before the court of public and jurist opinions as whores, sluts, prostitutes, and the like. She was a titan, this woman, Rosa Parks. She was a titan fighting for the common and constant denial of Black women's bodily integrity. When Rosa Parks was arrested for merely sitting in a section of the bus not reserved for either white or Black, but because the bus driver decided he didn't want her seated at all. How about that? You know, you've been told through history that the issue was, move to the back of the bus, move on back, all that stuff. But if the bus driver didn't want you on that bus on that particular day because he could literally throw you off while the bus is moving, have other people throw you off, beat you up first, and then throw you off. But by the time she sat on that seat, she was already so heavily into the fray of civil rights and the movement, documenting instances of kidnapping, brutality, and atrocities associated with the wanton rape of white men who trolled Black neighborhoods for Black girls and women, sometimes brazenly taking them right out of their homes on the pretext of employing them. You heard me. You home having your dinner, and some Black man comes to the door. Give me that wench over there. I got a job for her. What you gonna do? He got 3 other dudes in the car waiting to come out and whip your ass and anybody else's ass that's there. Or God knows what. Or perhaps he's not even doing it that way. Perhaps when it's a job, he's going to be very nice. And you're poor, so you want the opportunity to make some money for the family, so you go. And you never heard from again. It was due to the unrelenting vigilance of Ms. Parks and her work on behalf of Black women and control of their own bodies that eventually the National Organization for Women joined in the battle. So eventually, this is very important for you to understand, because the National Organization for Women now is a white feminist organization for all intents and purposes, and certainly was back then. They work for the rights of equality for white women. Mind you, it took all that time for the National Organization for Women to join in the battle. And I bet you didn't know this either. It was due to Rosa Parks getting the National Organization for Women involved, that they were able to force the government to change the definition of rape to an act of violence and not sex. Now, how about that? I mean, nowadays, I'm sure you believe that the definition of rape was always an act of violence. No, that was due to Rosa Parks and her efforts. Now, I'm going to read another one. It looks like there are only 2 people on. That's fine. What I'd like you to do, though, oh, wait, hold on a sec. What I'd like you to do, though, is do share. Do feel free to share. And I will be uploading this. Okay? You can always, I know that's probably what people most likely do anyway, is view it later, because you're either at work or at lunch or whatever. And of course, after this is over, I will acknowledge everybody who jumped on for however long, because it shows when you jump on. Okay? All right. This was a response that I wrote to someone regarding the present situation for women as regards owning one's own body. It was a man, white man, And he was making his feelings known. He was a friend. And he was being sincere about his belief that the woman's body is sacred. And that you're virtually killing a baby if you have an abortion. So I wrote him this. I said, you have a noble heart. Some people might have read this too on Facebook, but this is basically, see, because my posts and stuff are public, not everybody gets to see them. So you get to have me read it to you in person, live. Anyway, you have a noble heart. You choose life. You are pro-life. The evidence is all over your writing, and you are entitled to feel that way. And this goes out to anybody who feels this way, man or woman. I am not going to ever decide for anybody how their reproductive organs and what lives inside them or is inside them. I'm not going to ever dictate what a person should do with their body. So as you listen to this, I want you to understand connotations. Okay. Your beliefs and convictions are bound by your ideology. Most are. It's the way you believe, and that is your choice. And he said, if you don't like the way I feel, how we go. If you can't stand what I'm saying, then just block me. They want you to have the favor of blocking them. That's fine. I said, I won't block you. I don't think that was enough of a reason, because he feels like he's upholding the sanctity of life. Note the words I used, however, when I said choose, choice, and entitled. You, like every American in the U.S., are supposed to be entitled to choose his or her own choice, their choice to believe and be bound by their beliefs. Choice and being entitled to choose is at the heart of the issue for women. It is and has only been about a woman's right to be entitled to make the decisions on her own body without there being laws governing her reproductive organs and what is inside of them, to choose whether to have a baby or not. There is not and has never been any such law governing a man's reproductive organs and what's inside of them. Ask yourself why, and the answer should be clear. Imagine if, as a man, you were penalized every time you ejaculated into a tissue. You must know you are killing the most important thing that a man has, in fact, to make a baby. Just as much as the woman. Each contributes, or nothing is made. Each provides 2 chromosomes, or nothing is conceived. A baby can't be made unless it is fertilized by that extremely important item contained in a man's semen. But the mere thought of a man dropping his load into a latex sleeve each time he has sex, creating major repercussions, is absurd, right? What about a law governing a man's ability to ejaculate at will? Well, of course it isn't Oh, jeez. Hey. I am back. My internet connection is acting really, really dumb. So if you want to jump back on, that would be good because I'll continue on where I was. Hey, invite some people. I'm back. This is a continuation of the original Facebook Live that I did just a few minutes ago. And it is about it's about racism. It's about rape and owning one's body. Thanks everybody for coming back. Share it with your friends. Let them know I'm back. I'm on my phone this time because my computer likes to act up sometimes. I actually have it connected to my phone. But it wants to act. I mean, I have the internet connection connected to my phone, but it wants to act really, really dumb. So, and that's not the first time that it did that in the middle of my video. So I probably will end up editing this to meet that. So hi everybody. I'm waving to everybody. I will definitely mention everybody's name. Hi. At the end. Good. And if there's anybody else that you want to add to this view, let them know that I'm going to be editing this and putting both parts of this together the best way I can. And so that nothing is really lost. Okay? So, I was talking about a comment that I wrote for a friend of mine who identifies himself as a pro-lifer because he believes in the sanctity of human life and believes that a woman's body is the cradle of that life. And I'm sure that is the belief of many. I mean, it crosses all spectrums. It certainly crosses the religious spectrum. But I wanted to explain to him that it may not necessarily equate to, well, I wasn't trying to change his mind, okay? That's my thing. I mean, I tell people, I say, look, hey, I want to say hi to everybody, but I want to stay on this topic too. But I do want to acknowledge everybody who's on here. James Douglas, Mike Coleman, Phoenix Woods, Andre, Andrews, Warren Lane, Ben Sykes, David Nichols, Janet, Carmen. Hey, I just want to acknowledge everybody for being on here. I thank you. If you think that there's anybody that might be interested in what it is that I'm talking about, please share. let people know they might be interested, or they might just want to troll. If you got any friends that's like feeling some kind of way, and you want them to troll me, hey, feel free. You may have some people that say, this chicken off her rocker, she crazy. You gotta hear her. Because I know I'm controversial. Let me tell you what Facebook did. Facebook sent me this information, and I have to tell you, it kind of gave me the willies a little bit, because it said something about me having to do 2 levels of authentication from now on, as of May 24th, or I won't be able, anything that I post will not post to my professional page. That's what I'm assuming from what they said. But when I tried the 2 levels of authentication, which means that they send you a text, how about they haven't got that down yet, because it ain't sending me nothing. And I ended up having to send them my ID and this, I don't even know if you can see this series of numbers. This number that they sent me, I had to take a picture of it, holding it in my hand like that. A code number. But each time I submitted, when I submitted it, it took me to a broken link. Now, how about that from Facebook? But anyway, I don't want to get into a Facebook thing. Obviously, Facebook is trying to get a handle on those of us who are getting the word out. You have your activists who work the street, and you have your activists who get on social media to educate. Me, I'm disabled, so I do it the best way I can, and I'm an educator, so I'm going to educate. Okay? I'm going to educate. So anyway, I was talking about this thing that I wrote to this guy. Some of you already heard it, but I'm going to go ahead and start it over. It's not that long, so I want to start it over. And I told him, I said, you have a noble heart. You choose life. You're pro-life. The evidence is all over your writing, and you are entitled to feel that way. Your beliefs and convictions are bound by your ideology. It is the way you believe, and that is your choice. Note the words I used, however. Choose, choice, and entitled. You, like every American in the United States, are supposed to be entitled to choose his or her own choice, their choice, to believe and be bound by their beliefs. Choice and being entitled to choose is at the heart of the issue for women. It is and has been only about a woman's right to be entitled to make decisions on her own body without there being laws governing her reproductive organs and what is inside them. To choose whether to have a baby or not. There is not and has never been, there is not and has never been any such law governing a man's reproductive organs and what is inside them. Ask yourself why, and the answer should be clear. Imagine if as a man you were penalized every time you ejaculated into a tissue. You must know that you are killing the most important thing a man has, in fact, to make that baby just as much as the woman. Each contributes, or nothing is made. Each provides chromosomes, or nothing is conceived. A baby can't be made unless it is fertilized by that extremely important item contained in a man's semen. But the mere thought of a man dropping his load into a latex sleeve each time he has sex, well, creating a major repercussion is absurd, right? What about a law governing a man's ability to ejaculate at will? Well, of course, it isn't even considered, because the onus is and always has been on the woman, even if the man doesn't want a baby either. Now I'm up to date, gang. Suffice it to say, it is his choice. He is entitled. His reproductive rights are spared. He can choose to shoot his man stuff anywhere and whenever he wants. Isn't that just wonderful? To have that kind of freedom to just go out there. I mean, they made songs about it. You got songs. What was that song? Skeet, 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 skeet. I didn't even know. Let me tell you something. I didn't even know what that meant. The beat was nice. The beat was nice. And then I learned what it was about. And that tore me up inside because kids were just dancing and just enjoying this mess. But anyway, I digress. Does anyone even consider the fact that every month a woman essentially kills a baby or ovum when it comes through unfertilized from her body during menstruation? Has anybody actually considered that fact? That each and every time a woman has a menstrual period, she is killing possibly at least one, but maybe a few, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands at a time, coming through the old fallopian tubes, down the bridge, down into the area where it's supposed to meet its other half. And when it doesn't, they all just go down the toilet or into the nap or wherever, but they don't survive. Where's the outrage? There used to be. The woman was vilified as unclean for centuries. Centuries. Why do you think that was? Gonna be punished for something. Basically. An average young woman, now I want you to understand this. An average young woman will have approximately 540 periods throughout her reproductive life. Does that make the woman a mass murderer? Ooh. Now I got some more stats for you. This is why I want you to share this with your men friends who might be thinking about that woman's body as the vessel. You know, sure, we carry it, but guess what? We can't carry jack unless you help. Okay? Now, an average male, will produce roughly 525 billion, that's billion with a B, cells over his productive life, and will let loose at least 1 billion of them each month. He may release between 40 million and 1.2 billion sperm cells in a single ejaculation. My God, the babies he's killing. Imagine that. 1.2 billion opportunities to make a baby at one time during just one sex act. Certainly, 525 billion deaths of sperm over the course of a man's reproductive lifetime should make him a mass murderer as well. Should it not? Not according to men. And this lack of concern for their part in the reproductive process is all rooted in, now wait for this, wait for it, is all rooted in, what is it that I talk about all the time? Because I tell you, each and every time I get on this live, Each and every time I attempt to educate you and I said, put on your thinking caps. We're getting ready to dive deep. I want you to look through your lens. Say it with me. White supremacist. I'm adding a new one. Patriarchy. Unless and until you understand that white supremacy lives in each and every aspect of human activity on this earth, you will never understand anything related to human activity on this earth. It just is the way it is. You must understand. This is the way it is right now. And this is what has to change in order for the snowball to roll down the hill. And the movement of that snowball to grow. What white male conservatives in power today have done is successfully, because they always successful. They good. They damn good. I gotta tell you. What they have done is successfully mask a highly insecure white supremacist ideology and fear of a dying race into a desire to force its will upon a segment of their own demographic without admitting this reality is at the heart of the issue. Consider then the very strong view held by conservatives over small government. Now, I'm going to take you somewhere now. I want you to understand. They're always talking about small government. They don't want government in your life. We don't want government in our lives. But you got to understand what they mean. You got to understand connotations and context. Okay? Any person astute in history knows that means they are against the feds telling them how to treat their blacks. It has been that way for generations since the enslavement and was the catalyst for the nation's only civil war. Rationalize it economically or any other way one likes, and it still boils down to that. Compounding their hidden agenda is the highly emotional aspect of church indoctrination, which effectively brings both races into the mix, since the highly patriarchal church is often used for those rare opportunities when the white supremacists allow black people to participate and agree with them without having to even divulge the real agenda. And we'll sit up there and go, yep, right, yep, amen, hallelujah. And I'm not trying to be cavalier. Trust me. I'm not being facetious here. I'm telling you the truth. The fact is, there are fewer and fewer white babies being born. Yes, it is about white babies. It has always been about white babies. There has always been an impetus among white supremacists that the race must continue. But many white women, because of their choices, and that pissed y'all's men off. Any of my white friends and my white feminist friends, y'all pissed them men off. Y'all pissed y'all men off terrible. The minute y'all start talking about equality and equal opportunity, and let's your wagon on to the black vanguard. Trust and believe. Anyway, because of their choices have opted to make their own decisions to have or not to have children, and it has gotten bad. It's gotten bad. See, birth control. We can do a whole nother segment on birth control. Birth control was not designed for white women. Birth control was designed for non-white people. Of course, it was also for those people who were into genes and eugenicists and, that sort of thing. It was also for anybody who was poor and disabled, because the eugenicists had an even higher agenda to create the master race, which of course everybody's going to walk around with blonde hair and blue eyes. Anybody ever seen a time machine with Rod Sterling or something? That old time machine about the Morlocks and them other ones. If you haven't seen it, make sure you look it up. It might be on YouTube. It's called The Time Machine. It's with Rod Sterling. It's an old one. He goes off into the future, way in the future, thousands and thousands of years. Ain't not one black person on the face of the earth. Not one. It was a white supremacist dream. They all had blonde hair and blue eyes, cut in a bowl cut. The women were just so fabulously, so blonde and so blue-eyed and so shapely and so demure and sweet and subservient. But guess who they were being ruled by? The Morlocks. And the Morlocks were the darkest. First of all, they look like apes. I mean, first of all, they look like apes. Okay? Because of the way they were shaped and the way that they walked and things like that. But them guys, they were black. They were so black, they were blue. See that movie? See that movie with my lens on. Borrow my glasses. Go see. Borrow my glasses and find that movie. It might be on Amazon. Rent it. Whatever. Find it on YouTube and get the Time Machine. And the lead actor, I believe, was Rod Sterling. And I think the little waif was Yvette Mimieux. Back in those days, she was the little ingenue of all of the movies. She had that virginal look, but she was a naughty girl. You know how they did back in those days. But anyway, I'm digressing once again, and I don't want to do that. Let me get back to this. But I just want to give you a picture of what it's always been about. And it's always been about white babies. And it's gotten bad now. Margaret Sanger didn't found Planned Parenthood for white women. She wanted to stop the proliferation of poor black babies who were being born at alarming rates. What they hadn't considered was the popularity of that program for poor and average white women as well, because wealthy women always had the options available to them for contraception if they so chose. So, what ended up happening was, oh my God, Planned Parenthood, we can get birth control. In fact, she coined that term, birth control. Now consider these same people who don't want to be told what to do about their discriminatory, that small government, keep government out of our business. They don't want to be told what to do about their discriminatory practices against black people, actually wanting the feds to legislate the reproductive rights of their own white women. And make no mistake, this ain't about black women. We have had our own, as you know from what I read, we've already had our own issues about owning our own bodies. And trust me, abortion was the least of it. Okay? Abortion was the least of our concerns. Birth control was the least of those concerns. Getting beat up and raped and murdered and abused and brutalized, that was at the forefront of our fight for control over our bodies. Not just, we don't want you to be able, we want you to be able, we want to force you to have your baby. And I'm not saying that to say that that's somehow a bad thing. It's like a separator or a divisor for black and white women. All I'm saying is that demarcation for intersectionality stops at the vagina. Unless and until white women really get on the grip and understand that we have some unique issues of our own with respect to owning our own bodies. And let's face it, I know that, now that there are black women who take advantage of those privileges and rights of choice. And there's nothing against it. And I said before, I do not judge anybody about anything. I just wanted to put things into perspective. So, these same conservatives think Black Lives Mattering is a terrorist group out to destroy white people rather than a call for preserving life, as in, pro-life. Understand that abortion is overly inflated as the only issue because it stirs strong life and death emotions, religious convictions, and fear. And this is serious for these supremacists as they see their numbers dwindling. All you have to do is listen to Trump, and you know that this is the way they govern, through fear. The simple fact is, abortions in this country are relatively low because, at least for now, there's ample contraception for all women. Most of these contraception, here's something for you. Most of these contraceptives, in fact, stop or kill the sperm inside the semen to keep them from connecting with the ovum, not the killing of the ovum or the baby. Even the day after pill merely stops the ovum from connecting and stops the sperm from connecting with the ovum. Menstruation. That's normal and natural. The question for women is not about abortion. It's about whether women have any say about their own part of the reproductive process. This is for you men to understand. You are not legislated. Your body parts are not legislated. There are no laws on the books, and any law that has anybody who has attempted to write one is laughed off the House floor. I just recently read a satire not too long ago, and men were like losing their minds, not realizing it was just a satire. It is about limiting their ability to choose contraception while there are no limits on the reproductive processes of these same male legislators and their male constituencies' own little swimmers. And we already know they're not going to legislate themselves. Oh, no. The bottom line is these insecure white supremacist legislators should not be entitled to use their insecurity over the longevity of the white race as a means to choose a woman's choice and federally legislate that choice into laws. At the very least, they should be honest about the real agenda. I mean, don't you think? At the very least, be honest. You being honest about some of these other things on Fox, get on Fox and say, look, we're running out of white babies and we about to be eliminated by the numbers. And I have, I've actually written something, or I have it in my head, and I've done some free writing on this issue of white men and this thing that they have about the race, the white race, and their manifest destiny, and the fact that they are just, and don't get me wrong, I'm talking about collectively, not the masses of white people. See, because that's another thing I wrote about and have written extensively about. The fact that the masses of white people are being so deluded and so indoctrinated and so conditioned into thinking. See, they don't even realize that they being duped too. And I talk about that all the time. By the same basis, the same tool. Somebody wrote me, my friend, and I know who it was. It was Janet. But it was it was in a different context. Janet Jones, my baby. It was within a different context, however. But it made a lot of sense to her, and I know it did, when I told her that no more than, or let's say in the same way that there are differences. We say it to ourselves. Just because they skin folk, they ain't kin folk. We say it all the time among ourselves because if nothing else, we know that we are different. This is why I tell us, embrace our individuality. Come in as a collective with your like choices, things that you understand, things that you want to come together on. But do embrace your individuality as well. That way you kind of break that stigma of being associated with everybody, even though you're yourself. Just because one thing happens to one person doesn't affect everybody. By the same token, we also, black people, I think as a collective, kind of think that all white people are the same. And all white people are united. Just look around, you people. The white supremacists, whatever they could really, the ones that got it all, they could be great. They could be the lizard people for all we freaking know. Okay? I'm being really facetious here. But the fact is, they got with these people and told these people, guess what, Pino? We want to keep these niggers under wraps. We want to keep them as our free labor. But because we know we affecting you and you ain't able to work and make no money, we going to give you some money. We're going to give you a little bit of land that you can work yourself and feed your families. And you're better. You're literally better than them. In every way, you are superior to them. And that's how they keep it going. And they need these white bodies cranking out, indoctrinated, conditioned. They need these masses of white bodies that they can continue to subjugate in the economic class system. And because they don't subjugate them in any other way, not to the levels that racism subjugates and brutalizes black people, that gives them that false sense of security. So when their women start bugging up, what are they going to do? They're going to make a law and say, look now, you women, we done gave you 60 years of careers and choice. And now you got to get on your backs and start making some white babies, because we have done the calculations. And while we have managed to keep our black population around 14%, we losing numbers still. And even though we are trying to get these brown people out so that they don't just overrun us, we still losing. So y'all gonna have to have these babies. I mean, come on. You're just gonna have to start having these babies, white people. That's what they're saying. That's what they're telling you. And they got people on this side. They got some masses of white people that's like, yes, 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 let's have as many white people. I want to have 20. I want to have 12. I want to have 4 or 5 husbands so that I can have a variety. No, so he can have a variety where he can take his 1.2 billion little swimmers and go everywhere with them. I mean, that's the reality. That's the reality, folks. Hey, David Miller. I'm waving to some people because I got some people on here. Hi, everybody. I will most certainly respond to each and every comment that I get, whether I respond in word or I respond with an emoji. I will make sure that I respond to each and every person who has taken time out to jump in on this live. I appreciate you. I really do. Michelle! Dr. Ramos! Oh! I miss you, girl. Listen, let me tell you something about Dr. Ramos. Unbeknownst to us, Dr. Ramos was working for her when we were in school together, working on our doctorates in education. Dr. Ramos was always also in school working on a master's degree simultaneously with this doctoral degree. So she ended up graduating from another university and then flying all the way to Pennsylvania to graduate with us in 2018. I mean, girl, you are just... If I wasn't already grown, I'd want to be just like you when I grew up. I swear. Love you. I love so many people. Well, I'm going to try. I don't know how these 2 videos are going to end up looking because I'm doing one on my phone and I did one on the computer. But I'm going to try really hard to kind of sort of join these 2 videos together. And I think I should be able to do it if I just drag and drop them in. I really appreciate Janet. I am really happy to see the people who are joining in. I really am. Boy, some of these comments are just amazing. Let me see. Okay, I've got absolutely. I've got WSP. I got that's right. Mary! Hi, Mary! I hope you're still on here, Mary. Hi, darling. Shirley, she says, please don't start with those natural facts. White women and surely black men don't think, can't think, don't want to think how a baby come to their being. Oh, dang, it went away before I can finish it. And Trey says, break it down. Yep, that's what I do. I have to. I break it down, you know? I have to break it down. I really do. That's what I do. I tell you to put on your thinking caps. You have to see the world. In order for you to understand at least the rudimentary parts of what I'm saying, you have to force yourself. If you don't usually do it, if you go through life thinking, oh, everything ain't about race, everything ain't about white and black, then you definitely have to put on a pair of glasses, what I call the lenses, the white supremacist lenses in order to see through my eyes or to see things from the perspective I'm offering. I've said this before. A gentleman by the name of Neely Fuller Jr. said that if you don't understand what racism is, everything else in your life will be confusing. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he said. And that feeling, that belief, that understanding was also shared by Dr. Cress Welsing, who actually did the scientific work that was responsible for her theory of white genetic annihilation, and which is the basis for the fear that is going on right now that white people don't want to talk about. White, whether they want to admit it, somebody should. I mean, I would love to see a white woman legislator jump up on that podium and say, "Listen here, you white dudes, we know what you want to do. You are losing your mind with fear right now because you've made up this construct of white skin-based superiority without, as smart as they were, as insidious and brilliant as they were, they didn't account for humanity stepping in and the laws of nature stepping in. They didn't account for that. People gonna love who they want to love. And if they want to have babies, they're going to have them. If they don't want them, they're not going to have them. But in any event, this thing called color that these people up on top used as a tool to separate and divide people, trust and believe it's eventually going to go away. Because it was a construct in the first place. It has no real value. It has no real meaning in humanity. The problem is, some of these crazy, wealthy supremacists would see the world destroyed, see the earth destroyed first. That's the crazy part. That's the really crazy part. Anyway, I'm going to take this video. People that are going to look at this video are going to be like, oh, dang. They missed the whole Rosa Parks one. But like I said, I'm going to get this up onto YouTube. First, I'm going to combine them, and then I'm going to put it up on YouTube as one video, and then I'll put it back on Facebook, and then you can share that one. I'll make a notation that this is the one with both parts to it. Thank you for being you. Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate you guys. I was having a moment a few days ago. I don't know. Some people that know me know, but a lot of people that know me don't know, or who've known me, and there are people who've known me for 50 years or more, don't know that I was diagnosed as clinically depressed way back in my 20s. And I have been clinically depressed pretty much all my adult life. So every now and then I fall into a place, and I can generally get myself out of there, but I need to recharge sometimes. And it only took a couple of days this time, few days this time to recharge. But, if you don't see me on Facebook, just know I'm getting myself together. And I'm cool now. I'm cool right now. I'm cool. Let's put it like this. I'm on about 85%. And I'm cool enough to drop a little wisdom. Okay? Just always keep me in your prayers, whoever you pray to. And I'm not saying that facetiously. Whoever when you pray to the creator of us all, let's say a little prayer for me too. Okay? And I will see you guys again on another occasion when I feel so inspired. And I'm getting ready to get off of here, and then I'm going to get on here again and respond to all of your comments and things. All right. Dr. Cindy out.